Welcome to this episode of Meet the Artist at Framethrower. My name is Ben Kuzold, and in this episode I'll be speaking with industry legend Eamonn Butler. Eamonn's experience as an anime supervisor ranges from Disney features to VFX blockbusters on huge-scale projects as Chicken Little, John Carter, Hellboy 2, The Avengers Endgame, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, No Time to Die, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and many, many more. Eamonn has been the head of animation at Cinesite for just about 9 years now and could recently add director to his long list of titles for his work on the animated feature Riverdance, the animated adventure. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Eamonn is inspiring and very insightful and generous with his time, and it was a great privilege to catch up with him. Also, if you're an animator looking for community and feedback, come check out framethrower.io. Great artists, great vibes, and customized animation player and feedback tools all available at framethrower.io. And now, here's Eamonn Butler.
I think the best way to be is open, share what you know, because at the end of the day, if we're all doing great work and more audiences respond to it, we're going to get more work and going to get more opportunities and grow and get better. So
I was kind of hoping we could start at the beginning because I know you've told this story many times before, but like a lot of us, you started in something completely different, or maybe like you were in the Irish Air Force, right?
that's right. Yeah. I was an aircraft technician. Back when I grew up and left school at 18,
Yeah.
Ireland was in a depression. And just weren't a lot of jobs, and people were being encouraged to leave the country, emigrate, to find jobs elsewhere. And I didn't want to do that, so I'd filled in the forms for a job in the army and a job in the Air Corps just as practice. I
Mm.
got the interviews as practice, and then I got offered the job, and it was quite difficult to get in there. They're very picky about who they choose.
Mm.
And it was a pensionable job. It was a 12-year contract, which
Mm.
is extremely unusual.
Yeah.
And he could retire after 20 years. So I'd have been done by 40.
Oh.
Yeah, so my parents are very happy. I went, took the job. Um, After a few years, I realized this is not making me happy. I wanted to
Mm.
be creative, and I wanted to, and it was an amazing job. It just wasn't the right one for me.
Mm.
So I decided you had to buy your way out of the military back then. I'm not sure what it's
Oh,
like now,
really?
but yeah, because you're essentially paying for your college fees. We're going to college to learn how to be a technician or an engineer. So the longer I left it, the more I'd have to pay, and it was quite a lot of money, and the pay wasn't great. So I had to sell stuff, a drawing table and a TV and all kinds of stuff. Sell it all, buy my ticket, leave. Yeah, so it's a long story, but
Mm.
it what happened was I came out in my 20s having done a job I didn't love. So I then put myself through college for a year, art college, learning animation, traditional animation. And I worked my ass off because I didn't want to go back to a job I didn't love.
Mm.
So I was extremely motivated coming out of the military, and I had nothing to lose. I figured, okay, it's okay. I think it's okay when you're young to take a left turn or a right turn and take a risk if you're not sure.
Mm.
But you need to keep a check on yourself, I think, to figure out if
Right.
you're feeling satisfied.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I got into a course at Dunleary College in Dublin. It was a great course from David Brain, who
Mm.
is a brilliant classical Disney 2D animator. And it was a 1 year specialized course, and Disney were going to open up in Dublin at the end of that year. They already had a studio in London and in Paris. And then, we got to the end of it, and then Disney decided they weren't going to do that. Then they shut the London studio and didn't do the Dublin studio. However, I went from there straight into a company called Murakami Wolf, who were in the city centre of Dublin. And my first job was as an in-betweener on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the TV show, the original one.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun. Did that for I think 8 months, 6 months, something like that. Figured I really wanted to work on features. There weren't any opportunities in Dublin for me. So I took a sick day don't ever do this. I took a sick again. I sold everything I had, bought a plane ticket, took my portfolio, went to London for one day, hit all the studios up, and had 3 job offers. And I came home that night on the same day.
Wow.
And the next day, I handed in my notice, and then just went to London, slept on floors, stayed at friends' places, got a job as an in-betweener. Immediately took a test for an animator, moved up through the ranks very quickly, made enough money to be able to rent my own place. So that was a long year.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to get there, but if you worked hard, and it's one thing I loved about America when I went there. It's, they say it's the land of opportunity. It really is. If you work hard, apply yourself, and have a modicum of talent, you can do very well there, because talent is rewarded, because it's a young country. What I found working in London and Dublin at the time was, it was you kind of needed to know people in order to get doors to be open.
Right.
It's a different place now, I think, but yeah, it was I had a good time. So yeah, London was great, and then I again I got into the industry, into 2D, when it was just sort of dying. It was starting to close, and everything was shifting towards CG, and I could see that happening. So I finished on a show, and a friend of mine, Alan Mandron, who's an amazing animator, offered to for me to help him on a computer game, and it was brand new technology, custom tool set, and I had to learn everything from the ground up. And that was fun. It was a challenge to learn a different way to animate using different tool sets, but also you could model, rig, texture, could do everything. You had to learn everything.
When was
and
this?
come up with. This was on a game called Urban Decay. It didn't get finished, but it was a follow-up to a game called Ecstatica. It was on a PC.
Okay.
Great fun, really great fun to do. And then Disney came through town looking to hire traditionally trained artists who wanted to work in CG, because they couldn't find them, or enough of them in America. Everybody was really hardcore into traditional animation. So I applied, got a job, and they flew me out, and I had 10 years at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. So when was it that you left for Disney?
I went to Disney 1994 and stayed for 10 years, came back 2004.
Yeah.
I went in as an animator, CG animator on Fantasia 2000, which was lovely, because there were a number of brand new sequences being added to the original movie and swapped out for older sequences.
Yeah.
There I went to work in Dinosaur so I started as an animator, then became a character supervisor, then became a show supervisor, and then I trained everybody over, and then ran animation as a department as a whole, all within 10 years.
And were you when you say you started as an animator, was that CG or 2D or both, or how?
CG.
CG. Okay.
CG with a 2D background, because they wanted. We worked on the Tin Soldier sequence of Fantasia, and we wanted it to have a 2D feel, but yet be animated in CG. So we experimented with animating on 2s, using linear interpolation, rendering it using tones and shadows and all kinds of different stuff. So we didn't want it to beat people over the head that it was CG, but we also wanted to blend seamlessly with painted backgrounds, and it was a very experimental time.
Yeah.
In CG. And then, of course, going from that to Dinosaur, which is fully CG, it was a huge leap for Disney.
Yeah. It must be interesting. It must be interesting for you, just a little side note, how things are coming back to those experimental, like everything is on like 2s, 3s, or 4s, and while the background may be on 1s. I'm just thinking about Spider-Verse now is a good example of how they messed it all up, but in a really beautiful way.
It's a very exciting time in CG. I think everybody's exploring more artistic looks as opposed to photoreal looks.
Yeah,
and it's taken a long time to get away from that. And I think it's an amazing time. And the tool set is really great right now for that kind of thing. And we're constantly getting clients coming to us asking for non-photoreal, artist-driven looks. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh, that's like a dream. But did it feel similar back then at Disney when you were figuring it all out, or 3D?
it was great. I mean, Disney's a huge company.
Mm.
Dinosaur was a massive production, but it felt guerrilla
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
Because we were making it up as we went, and we had, we were animating in Softimage and then doing facial in Maya.
Oh,
So you'd have to do the body in one pass, export it, do your facial, put it all back on. It was crazy, but that's the only way we could do it.
mm.
Um, we had very incredible technical support, great tool sets, and everybody had an open mind. There was a lot of stop motion animators came on board for that movie, and they brought an amazing sensibility um, to the show. And we also had some more traditional people, so it was a big mixture of
Mm.
animation artists, and none of us could be really that precious about it because it's all brand new.
Right.
Um, but it was great. I remember the literally the week I landed in the States, I went to Universal City Walk and to the movie called Toy Story, which just opened up that weekend, and I thought I have absolutely made the right decision here.
Yeah,
What a great movie that was, and
yeah,
yeah, I think not only in terms of its animation, but the storytelling style was very different. It wasn't a musical. It wasn't aimed at very young kids. It was fun. Everybody could get something out of it,
mm.
and it was CG, and I think that was sort of the exciting thing.
Yeah, yeah,
The
definitely.
possibilities seemed endless.
Yeah. Also the possibilities for you for being part of that big transformation at Disney, where they have this like this immensely rich background and all that potential, because they've proven themselves over and over again by then, and then
Yeah,
going into this new territory with all that force must have been so
yeah.
exciting.
It was really inspiring to walk into that studio every single day and see artwork
Oh,
that
I
was
bet.
70, 80 years old. And it was also terrifying. It was really
Yeah,
intimidating
I
because
bet.
their movies are still amazing. They still hold up. And you've got that legacy
Yeah.
of thought and craft and care and
Mm.
love and talent.
Yep.
And it's a lot to live up to, but that can be very inspiring. And
Mm.
every single day it was an amazing experience. And everybody worked. I mean, they're not only are they full of great artists, they're full of great managers, and that's where I really learned my craft and managing.
Yeah.
They're extremely good at it, extremely good at it. Um, and they have lots of experience and they're very artist friendly. Yeah, it was such a positive
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, because you, like you said before, you grew into management at Disney as well.
Mm,
And um, when we when I met you first, it was on Giancarlo at DNEG years later, and
mm,
you had a lot of experience managing at that point. Uh,
yeah,
and but I think there was something to it, and I wonder if the style came from Disney, because there was this very um, there's this you had this very honest approach with the artist, and at the same time you had this great appreciation of the production crew.
yeah,
Like you were very close with everyone, in a sense that the appreciation was very apparent. And I've heard you say before that you've noticed that sometimes there's a traditional divide between artist and management or production,
yeah.
and it seemed very on that project, it seemed that everyone was kind of like on the same team. And I don't think I understood at the time, because it was my very first production to be part of. But it
You were lucky.
late.
You were spoiled.
I was, yeah. I later I understood how special it was, because later I experienced productions where there was a very clear divide, and the one side didn't understand the other, and so forth. It's like, it seems like there was some things that you brought with you from earlier, and I don't know if that came from Disney. The
It definitely came from Disney.
mm.
And I think look, I'm a big believer in the marriage between production and the artists.
Mm.
And it's everybody's responsibility to do the best job. And I think, at Disney, that was everybody was held to that standard. And, management there, a good management on any visual effects or feature animation show will understand that an artist can't deliver, every single time an amazing job to the clock.
Mm.
Some shots take a bit longer. Some shots require taking a left turn occasionally, then a right turn before you find your way. and because it's a creative process. However, if you create an environment that artists feel safe to take those kinds of risks and let production know and trust that production will keep them on track and let them know how important those shots are when they need to come, then you have give and take between the two sides and respect. And it's those, listen, working on projects is hard. And you and I have been through enough of those. They're all really hard because everybody wants to do the best job. Everything comes in at the last minute and there's always changes that you hadn't foreseen. And it's not that different in feature animation. As soon as you screen your movie, you've got notes that you thought, oh, of course, the ending doesn't work because of this, that, and the other. Now we need to change it. So, the sands are always shifting in production, but, you've also got to time it. If you think about when you start a show to when you end a show, everybody starts off and wants to take longer in shots to increase the quality. And by the end, you're getting the same kinds of shots done in half the time because your wheels are turning better and you've got your craft work down and your workflow down and good rapport with your leads and your director. So anything is possible in a show, but you also need room at the end to make sure people have a life. They don't burn out too quickly. Managers need to, learn how to respect artists and understand how to manage them the right way, and vice versa. And it's just it's a marriage. You need to be hand in hand. And I think I always say that to prospective leads and supervisors. I said, make sure you get on with your production manager, and I say the same to the managers too. So I think it's very important. I definitely learned that at Disney, but I think on John Carter, the jam that held the two pieces of that cake together was Andrew Stanton, because he was from Pixar and he had the same culture that I had at Disney. So, and his producers were the same. So there was a mutual respect there. We could have conversations with him about shots that weren't going to make it that week or needed to push them to the previous week, or could push other stuff in front. He understood it. He understood quota and the need to keep momentum. And there was a lot of trust there as well. So I think that helped things.
I'm tempted to just jump ahead to the DNEG days, but I just want to. So at Disney, you went from Disney to EA in London, right?
I did. I moved. I finished 10 years, and I thought, I had two kids, two sons at the time. They were about 5 and 4 years old at the time. And my wife and I decided we wanted them to grow up close to family in the UK. So we finished the project and said, I'd rather leave now on good terms, go back to the UK and keep that door open and keep a good relationship with the studio, and look back on the 10 years with rose-colored glasses instead of getting into a show, because at the time they were, we did Chicken Little, and that was an attempt to make films for cheaper. And Disney really struggled for a few years to do that because, well, for various reasons. But once you build a machine to spend $150 million, that's what you're going to spend. Doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what you try to do. If you've made the machine to do it, that's what you're going to spend. And it took them quite a long time to do that. And that was very frustrating. So although I had a great time working there, I figured now's the time to step away. Came back to the UK and nobody was making feature animation at the time. I took a break and I got a job offer from EA, and I remembered I was very fond of working in games 10 years previously, so I gave it a try. But it wasn't for me. It was, and this is no disrespect to the company. They do amazing work. And I worked with really talented animators there as well. But this is PS2 days, PlayStation 2, I think. So really, you're trying to manage data. Volumes of data that can be drawn on screen in real time. And there was an awful lot of sacrifices in the number of animation pieces, clips that you could have, the amount of geometry on the characters, which limited their expressiveness. And that was really limiting. And I thought, and yet the appetite was to make it look even better, which I loved. I loved the push. But I found it frustrating. And I thought I'd rather work in film. And then I got an offer to go to work at DNEG. On a Harry Potter film as an animation supervisor, so I took that.
Which Harry Potter was that?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was the second one.
Second,
Order of the Phoenix.
There's
so many of those things.
But I think and then John Carter, I guess, was your second one there, right?
No. We did a lot of stuff. We did
Oh,
a bunch
really?
of Batman movies. We did Hellboy 2 and the Golden Army, which is amazing. That was
Yeah,
great
yeah,
fun.
that
Like getting
was
to work
amazing.
with Guillermo del Toro that was a
Yeah,
treat.
yeah.
Uh,
I
he's
bet.
an incredibly
Yeah,
talented man, and it was that was great fun actually, and that really pushed us. You know, we grew from six animators to about 40,
mm,
30 or 40, and then John Carter was the next big one.
yeah,
Although there was quite a lot of stuff in between,
yeah,
but Carter was, that was a team of 120 animators, which was
yeah.
nuts. Really.
I heard from. I just wanna on Del Toro. I heard, and there was an interview with him about Pacific Rim where he talked about like always trying to progress and not go back on animation. And I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
lesson he learned by Pacific Rim, or if he still had that sort of attitude on working with you on Hellboy, because it seemed like he was very animator friendly in his
he is.
vision.
He gets it. He draws and makes notes. He always keeps a book and notepad, and he sketches in it, comes up with ideas. And he's an animator in a way. When he
Mm.
talks about performance, when he talks about the work he's looking at, it's about the performance. He talks like an animation director. He doesn't say move this hand over here,
Yeah,
and he tells you why the shot is in the movie,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what the story need is, what needs to be amped up, broadly speaking, and then allows artists to own that and step into that space.
Mm.
So that was something I learned. So I remember flying to LA to meet with him because I'd read the script for Hellboy 2, and in the script it said things like there were trolls and gnomes, and I thought, oh God, we've all seen this before.
Mm.
And then when I met him, he said he knew by the look in my eye that I was struggling with the description of the creatures, and he said,
Yeah.
"Come with me." Got in a car, drove over across town to Glendale, and went to the creature shop that was doing a lot of the, I think it was Spectral Motion at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was Spectral Motion. Amazing team. And as we walked in, he went around the back. He didn't go in the front door into the green room area. He went around the back, straight through the security gates in the back, walked right up to one of the artists who was literally sculpting right there. Big hug. And I was all talking about the work, and I thought, here's a guy, a director and a producer who loves working with creative people,
Yeah,
and they respect him. And I thought, we've got to work with this guy.
yeah.
He just finished Pan's Labyrinth, and then he showed me all the designs, and it literally blew my mind. I thought, yeah, this is going to be insane.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so yeah, and working with him, he's tough. He's a tough guy to work for. Like, he knows what he wants, and
Mm.
he won't compromise on it. But he allows you the space
Yeah.
to step in and fill it with your ideas, and that's something I learned from him and at Disney and from Andrew Stanton. And the best directors are ones that give you the room to
Mm.
contribute. They don't backseat drive you.
That's funny. You that term backseat driving. I've heard you say that before, and I also heard you tell a story about like you don't have to retell it, but it's like that you've learned by experience not to micromanage or backseat drive.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've done it. I've
by
done it, and it made the animator's life miserable. I kind of got what I wanted, but when I watched the movie in the theater
Hmm.
and the shot went by, I thought, wow, yeah, it was fine, but the artist's own take on it was just as good.
Hmm.
What they wanted to do would have worked just as well. And micromanaging somebody, not giving them the space to own something, people let go, and they become less interested in it, and it's not a good experience. And I remember having worked on so many different projects that the biggest life lesson, I'm jumping ahead to I know one of your questions later on is about what would
No,
you
no, no,
tell?
no. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's great.
But what I've learned is, never ever put your validation needs as an artist on the audience loving the movie when it's released, because that's completely out of your control.
Yeah.
Um, but enjoy the journey, enjoy making it, learn from that, and that's what refills your passion for what you
Mm.
do. But if you put it on the audience loving the movie, you just got no control, and
Yeah.
it's there's not an I remember taking my son to the movies. He was hanging out with a bunch of his mates. He was about 14, and we're sitting in front of the movie theater, and all the posters are up for all the films that are coming soon. And he's waiting for his friends to show up, and he says, "Dad, did you work on any of these? I'm like, yeah, we're working on that one, working on that one, just finished that one, didn't do that one, and that one's coming in. Wow. Like, yeah. So, and then he started laughing. I said, what are you laughing at? And he said, so how long do you work on these things? I said, anywhere from 8 weeks to 2 years. So he said, 2 years. And it comes out and it's gone in a week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, son of a. And he laughed, and I thought, why haven't I ever seen it that with that clarity? Well, I
Uh,
realized right then and there, if you put your hopes on the movie doing well, even if it does well, it's gone and it's replaced with the next film.
yeah.
Um, your kind of glory is it's that's like needing to hit a bullseye every time,
Mm.
and you're risking disappointment and
Yeah.
being disillusioned with what you do because we only do this because we love it. You don't want to be out of your mind to do this job. Um, but we do it and we love it and we put our heart and soul into it. We work late and we'll do whatever it takes and we make sacrifices and it's constantly learning and you need a lot of passion for that. And I think the best advice I have for anybody in this business is to own it creatively and learn and then
Mm.
enjoy the process, working with other talented people and appreciate that. That's really it. That's what builds your memories. That's what refills your passion juice
Yeah.
and gives you uh, the spirit to get involved on the next one and the next one and the next one. I've seen too many people over the years get burned out
Yeah.
because they put their hopes on something they've got no control over.
Yeah. I think the lack of control and also like this short-lived glory of it all is should be a reminder for us all to stay with it when we're actually doing it and try to enjoy it. Because if
Yeah.
you also, so we've all worked on projects that were honestly fun to work on. I had my big break on one of the Fast and the Furious movies, and
Mm.
I
Great
was
fun.
yeah, it was great. It was Stephen Endicott was my soup at the time, and he put a lot of trust in me. He's a great guy, and they had like they had these sequences where it was like, oh, cool fight scene on top of a car, but they didn't have any mocap for it, so we just got to play around and do ridiculous stuff, and we got to show that we could carry it, and then yeah, after that, I had kind of earned that trust, and then on you go. But I'm I'm not gonna. It wasn't a great movie, but it was good. But then it was entertaining, and it did what they're supposed to do. But if I
Yeah.
had put my trust in all my hopes and all my eggs in
Oh yeah,
this,
it needs to win an Oscar. It needs to win an Oscar, or
but
I'm never going to do it again.
exactly,
You
it's
can't
a
think that way.
no, 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 and yeah, and you also risk undermining that whole experience as instead of giving it the value that it has. So
Somebody
yeah,
asked me one time, what's your favorite movie? And for me, it's always the one I'm working on. Always. Because if you look back and go, oh, that one I did 10 years ago was better. Well, yeah, it was great, but the one I'm on right now is an
yeah,
opportunity to have fun, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow and
yeah,
contribute to it. And I
yeah.
always look at it that way. And I think, no, I'm not knocking any of the films I worked on, but
No,
look at what's on your plate,
yeah,
and enjoy it,
yeah,
savor it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll full circle back to that. Uh, uh,
Sure.
I I was you mentioned Andrew Stanton before, and I'm jumping ahead to John Carter now because when it 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 seemed like the Del Toro experience was part of your opportunity to grow the animation team to where it needed to be to take on something like John Carter with Andrew
Yeah.
Stanton. I guess you also had to convince people at DNEG to transition into being like a heavy animation house because they weren't always. So
No. I Yeah, that was it was a period of growth
yeah,
at Dina that was really strong, and I'm very thankful that they gave me the opportunity to deliver on Hellboy 2 and then on bigger projects. I think it's a difficult market to make money in.
mm,
Anything that involves a lot of 3D build, those margins get pushed, and but I don't remember what the budget for um, John Carter was, but it was healthy enough.
Mm.
But yeah, it was a challenge to grow that team. But I felt secure that we could deliver on time and do it well because I knew the type of man, the type of director Andrew Stanton was, because I'd worked with directors like him at Disney, and
Mm.
he had that. We shared a common ground in that regard, and a common background. So we even though it was a visual effects show, it felt very much like a feature animation show as well.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I knew we could get through it that way, and I knew he'd respect my way of doing things because it was coming from Disney, which is very similar to Pixar's culture at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult, and I think um, growth at any company is hard.
Mm.
Uh, there was a lot of growth in London, not just at DNAG, but if you think about NPC and Frame Store, and God, everybody grew really fast, and then it went
Yeah.
on to the Marvel movies
Yeah.
and so on. So yeah, there were good days and risky days,
Mm.
but it was. I always felt confident I could deliver good animation for John Carter.
Mm.
It was just the pressure of it, and yeah, we grew to a very large team size, much bigger than I'm normally comfortable with. But um, I had to be honest, I just brought in some amazing support. And Steve Applin, who's since
Yeah.
gone on to ILM, he's an amazing animation director.
Mm.
Stephen Endicott came on, and Robin, and it was a whole bunch of guys that really stepped in to help out. Um, yeah, and we had a great team
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
very good mixture. I will say, if I remember correctly, it was a very good mixture of male to female artists on the show,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I remember it as well.
um, which is a tricky thing, but yeah, that was a good mix. It was a good vibe. I enjoyed it. I had fun.
Yeah. I think a lot of us did. You all you there was a lot of there was a good ratio of male to female artists, but there was also a good
Mm.
ratio of junior to very senior artists. There was a lot of us starting out on that show, and
Yeah,
it was a great opportunity for a lot of us to work with very experienced people. Like I remember when I joined DNEG, I just wanted to get my hands on the cool creatures right away. But then you go to your first dailies and you see why that's not you doing that yet, because you're not quite there. And that's a good and humbling experience, to be daily reminded of how much work you have to put into it, and also just the environment of it all. And it's something that I realized later how I got reminded often, and when I had the opportunity to meet Andrew Stanton for a brief moment, he reminded me as well that this was a great opportunity. And it was. I learned a lot on that show.
I think artists felt trusted with their opinions, and that's something like you brought up a note there that about some part of my management style, certainly in that show, was a level of honesty, right?
Yeah.
So if you came to me and asked what I thought you should do with a shot, and there was times when I wasn't sure, I'd say I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was something that I've learned at Disney. So really, if we want to, I mean, I can give you an idea, right? I could tell you how I would do it,
Mm.
but actually, the best thing is to close the gap between the artists and the creative voice on the movie. In this case, the director,
Mm.
who was an animator. So I don't need to step in and create a barrier between the two. In fact, I just need to bring the two closer together. So I was. That's really what I was saying. Is like, let's get you in front of Andrew, and you guys can talk it through. So you hear it directly from him. It's not being filtered through me.
Mm.
And then you're encouraged, and this is really the key to, I think, managing a creative team. You're encouraged to go away and come up with the idea yourself,
Mm.
rather than me telling you what my idea was, which you're not really going to be that wedded to,
Yeah.
right? And so you won't put 100% into it.
Mm.
As great as an artist as you are, if you don't own it, you're not really going to own it
Mm.
and polish it up. So best for you to come up with the idea, and then I just make sure that it's landing within the brief of the director and keep you on the straight and narrow.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not rocket science, but you just have to put your ego to the side. I do.
Mm.
And it's first of all, I would never hire somebody that I didn't believe in. that I didn't think could do the job to begin with. So artists should know that if you're on the team, it's because we think you can do it.
Yeah.
And then it's just creating space for you to be creative and come up with your best ideas. And if they're not great ideas, get them off the table and try different ones. Have a sketch mentality where you can work quickly and hash an idea out, as opposed to sitting like this and working, and only
Yeah.
showing at the end of the week, and then everybody's freaking out because we're losing time. So in order to get an artist to feel good about their work, get them to work quickly and sketch, get them to do throwaway work and show it really early, and then make them feel strong about that was a good decision. And yeah, that's a sort of a craft of managing that I've learned. That's always worked, actually. I think it's a really positive way to grow talent, to deliver stuff on time, and then trust people. If I can't, bringing Steve Applin in was amazing. This guy's incredible, and that took pressure off me. So as the show grew, I didn't have to make all the decisions all the time. I can lean on Steve for stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it's ego. You got to put it to side.
Yeah, that's the life lesson for a lot of us, I think.
You guys do a great job. I look like a king.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it's looking good, I can lean on people more. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think the trust thing, it's almost like you're creating this positive ripple effect when you put trust into creative people or artists or animators, whoever, because like you said, they want to take more ownership, and because you take more ownership, you put more into it, and you get more confident, and you take more risk, and those risks bring bigger rewards, and then like on and on we go. And it
well, you said it yourself. Here you are years later, and you look back on it, and it was a positive experience, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you got out of it, and that's really what matters, is looking back and not going, why did I work in that movie? I bet,
Yeah.
You look back and yeah, that was good. I learned something. I developed. I worked with great people, and you felt respected, and you got some good ideas into the movie. And yeah, that's really what it's about. It's just building good memories.
Yeah. And also, you build a strong team. And I remember you started doing these lectures or I can't remember what we called them, but
Best practices.
Yeah. And you would essentially, it started, sometimes they would start out as like, these are the new features or tools or whatever we need to use, but then they eventually turned into just animation, that's just like going through the principles and going through them in a complex degree, so we all understood what you were looking for. And it was essentially, for a lot of us, it was extra education on top of the school that we had left behind, and now we were trying to get better. And so it was like lectures, really. And that along with the trust became essential for a lot of us on that show, I think.
Well, it helped us get through, because it was a tough show to make.
Yeah.
But I remember when I went to Disney were very open with lectures and supportive of artists. They always have classes, always something you could go to. And it was amazing. And it keeps you engaged, and it also keeps you humble too.
Yeah.
And you could be working right next to somebody who's amazing, but giving them a chance to step up and talk about their work, it reminds them of everything they know and everything they're bringing to the table. It's very, very good. And ultimately, I look at every artist I hire like a potential leader supervisor. And, doing this, like giving a class or a lecture, talking about your experiences, is a great way to learn how to address people and learn how to communicate and inspire and do all of that stuff. And it's a safe way to do it. So you're not in charge of the show, but at least you're getting exposure to talking to people, because most animators are quite shy.
Yeah.
Quite shy, closet animators, closet actors.
Exactly.
Yeah. It can be difficult to bring it out in them. But one of the things I knew from having worked in London many, many years previously, before coming to DNEG, was this. It was kind of a closed, sort of a closed mindset in in that it was hard to break into the business, start to
Mm.
learn from other people. People would be very protective over what they knew in case someone would take their job.
Mm.
And I think if we're all doing great work and more audiences respond to it, we're going to get more work and going to get more opportunities and grow and get better. So
Mm.
I think having that openness is good. I think on John Carter, we needed to have some kind of root uh, in an animation craft.
Mm.
So again, what I've learned over the years in CG, and particularly prior to the 5 years prior to John Carter, there weren't really a lot of standards in teaching animation in CG. It was very technical. It was more about the tool set and working with the curve
Mm.
editor and this, that, and the other. And there wasn't enough discussion about shape, about performance, about using story terms to drive your animation.
Yeah.
Assume people know how to use the tool, but actually, what's the best way to deliver an idea,
Mm.
communicate a thought, show weight, all of these different things. And I think that was the language that was missing, and I wanted to bring that into our world as animators on that show. And we had a director who supported that, which
Mm.
was very helpful.
Yeah. And it ended up looking amazing. I think
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it's one of the more underrated films, and
I think
definitely
so.
the most underrated one I've been a part of. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
was a shame what happened to it, but I have good memories and had a great time.
yeah,
Got to work with loads of great people.
yeah. And yeah, I heard you talk about your Goldfish Memory, and like what we talked before about not getting hung up on the whether or not how a movie does financially. It's like you would just let that go and go on to the next one and not try to cling on to um, like essentially it's out of your hands afterwards, right? So
It's out of your hands, and if you're proud of it, be proud of it, enjoy it. But
yeah.
it's the journey to get there. I think when you're young in the business, people think they might be attracted to a movie because it's got a name director
Mm.
and it looks like it's Oscar material, and that's all fine. You can do that. There aren't many of those projects out there, but
No.
if that's what you want. But if it doesn't win an Oscar, that's a pretty high standard. You know,
Yeah.
because only one movie wins an Oscar in an entire year as Best Picture. Only one wins it for Best Effects. Only one wins it for Best Director.
Yeah.
So it's you're setting yourself up for disappointment, I think.
Mm.
Um, if that's what your end goal is. I think trying to go on a show and learn, or be part of the legacy. Say, oh, I got to work on a Star Wars movie or
Yeah.
whatever. And that's all fine too. It's just enjoy it. I think it goes by quickly, and and the hours are still quite long in visual effects. It's a little different in feature animation. But feature animation, it's like a marathon. It takes about a year to animate a whole film, give or
Mm.
take. Sometimes it takes longer. So you need some stamina for that, and having good connection with people, get to know your crew, learn from them, push yourself, and so that when you come out of it at the end, you've gotten better,
Mm.
and you've got good experiences and good memories. That's really
Yeah.
the key.
And where Cinesite, where you're at now, it seems like you've kind of put yourself in a great position of both being able to handle feature animation and also be at the forefront with what's happening in visual effects because
Yeah,
you guys do both.
we do both. Yeah, I'm mostly involved in feature animation. Like, it used to be mostly visual effects, then it was both. Now it's mostly features. But I do dip in and out of shows as and
Mm.
when I'm needed. So we've spent the last few years at Cinesite growing feature animation from zero
Mm.
um, up to now having a studio in Montreal, a studio in Vancouver, and potentially other studios going forward because we're a much bigger company than that now.
Mm.
So yeah, it's very, very exciting. We've grown a team from scratch in Montreal. Um, and we have a fantastic team out there now and a great pipeline, nice big studio, and it's a lovely part of the world.
Mm.
Of course, in Vancouver, it's the same situation. We've just finished Adam's Family 2. That's going to come out in a week or two.
Nice.
So it's very, very exciting. Yeah, it's been it's funny. One of the things I've learned over the years is when you're at the bottom of the hill looking up, it seems impossible. to get there, right?
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're on top, and you look back and go, "Wow, that doesn't seem so far away." It's always you always have a different perspective when you get there and
Yeah.
look back.
Yeah.
And then when you're at the bottom looking up, it's just scary. You just don't think you can do it, but
Mm.
you can do it.
Yeah.
And I love, the other companies are getting involved in animation too. It's great because it's more work for everybody. Somebody said to me, "Oh, geez, what about competition?" I'm like, no, it's good. It's a good thing.
Mm.
More movies is great.
Yeah.
It's different styles, different choices, different level of artistry, different storytelling ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, great fun.
And also, if you, I've, I can imagine that you would look on quote unquote competition as also something that's mainly just inspiration. Like if some,
Yeah.
because,
Well, it does. Well,
yeah.
listen, competition helps you build the pool of talent as
Mm.
well. When we hit Montreal, we were the only feature animation company there. So it took a while to grow that team. And now there's at least 3 or 4 companies there, and that means artists can move around a little bit more free.
Mm.
Um, so that you've got more choices, and artists have more choices. So it's just better.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
Mm.
so have you, in terms of team management, have you developed your philosophy further, or are you taking those tools from Disney and DNEG? Are you bringing them onto a Cinesite team as well?
Those, yeah, I mean, we've hired lots of very senior people from the likes of Disney, Pixar, Blue Sky, and so forth, and they're all bringing their own flavor of the same stuff.
Mm.
Um, so there's more ideas in the mix, and which is great, and that's challenging for all of us because we want to be open to stuff. The market is changing for feature animation budgets, and we're having to adapt to that.
Mm.
So that's a big challenge. But in terms of artistry, I think we have a great culture at both the studios. Um, Very strong production culture and artist culture,
Mm.
and it's getting better and better. And I think that's just maturity. So to give you an
Yeah.
idea, when I walk into the studio in London, the average age is, I think it's 34. The average age is 34. Of course, when I go in, that shoots way up, right? But the average age in Montreal is 24.
Wow.
That means there's people younger than that in the studio.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing, and it's a different
Yep.
energy, it's a different vibe.
Yep.
But it's very exciting. The artists are generally speaking younger than I'm used to, but it's great. I love that energy, and I love the passion they bring to the table. It's multicultural. We have
Mm.
artists from all over the world working there. Yeah, so it's great, and I think listen, I'm open. We bring people in. We just as I said, just finished Adam's Family 2, and Graham De Silva he was the animation director on that show, and he's bringing blue sky sensibilities, and it was amazing. He's done an
Mm.
incredible job on that movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm always learning from other people too. But I think that's the future. Is you never stop picking up tips. You never stop
No.
learning how to do something. The challenges are sometimes it feels like they're the same challenges every movie, but at the end of the day, you're working with creative people, trying to give them a good route in workflow.
Yeah.
Because the tool set's always the same, right? But the tool set doesn't come to you working efficiently. There's a million distractions and diversions
Yeah.
in Maya, a million of them, and you can end up in a hole. And so it's really good to remind everybody of good workflow and good approach
Yeah.
to working things. Yeah, so I think there's always something to learn.
It seems like I've had the pleasure and opportunity to talk to a few amazing animation supervisors on this thing, and there seems to be this common thread of looking ahead and like you talked about before, not clinging to what happened before. And I've heard you talk about a goldfish memory where you just like forget about what just happened, just look ahead. And I've also heard you say no stinking thinking. or
Stinking thinking,
or
yeah.
thinking, yeah. And it seems to be there's like a general appreciation of what's new and what's
Yeah,
coming.
God, it's
And
a really exciting. It's an incredibly exciting time.
mm,
Um, John Carter. Just to go back to that movie, there was an awful lot of motion capture involved in that, and that
yeah,
was it was interesting because I looked at it and I thought it's just a tool.
yeah,
It can free us or it can shackle us, but that's really your mindset. Which side of the table are you on?
yeah,
And it was quite a difficult. I'm bringing this up because I see similar issues in the future using capture technologies and different engines like Unreal and all this kind of thing. There's lots
mm,
of amazing things happening. Um, but I had a slightly political issue with that on the show because animators would go, I don't want to use motion capture because it's not animation. Like I know, but it might help you
yeah,
rough out an idea really quickly, and then you can toss it and just take what you want from it. But the goal is to get your idea out, get the
yeah,
best idea out, get it fast,
yeah,
so you're not wasting your time pushing your mediocre idea to the finish line. So, but by the end of that show, I think everybody became a lot more comfortable with it,
mm,
and um, and it's just one of those things. I think it's best to keep an open mind to the tool set
mm,
and be willing to listen to how other people use it. But also, you have to challenge it. You have to question: Is this the right way? Because if we're still in learning mode,
mm,
um, things are far more structured now than they ever were. But the tool set's changing; it's
yeah,
constantly changing, and there's always new variations on it. But the tools that work the best are the ones that simplify the workflow. That's what you'll see, and
mm,
the ones that complicate it don't get used. And, you know, some people might use them, but I
yeah,
find that I think just stick to a workflow that works for you. Stick to it so that you can focus on your storytelling abilities and then your animation craft. But using the tools, just stick to whatever works
mm,
and try to get more efficient at it. Um, but yeah, I'm always excited. I got to see a demo of these giant LED screens,
mm,
and I thought, wow, that's amazing. We've been using Unreal for a couple of projects. That's really exciting.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, there's lots and lots. I mean, it's constantly changing and evolving,
yeah,
and there's great challenges in that, um, and that's great. And I think it's great to be able to wrestle with this stuff. But if you have a good craft and you know how to animate, I think you can go to any tool. You could go from Blender to Maya to whatever and
mm,
make it work. Um, it's really down to having a belief in yourself that you know how to tell a story, and that's what you should focus on as an
mm.
animator over the years to develop your storytelling ability. Because in the graph editor, there's no curve for funny. There's no there's no curve for story.
No,
There's
no,
no curve for weight. There's
no,
no curve for line of action. There's no curve for any of the aspects of your craft that you've learned in school. It's just technical, and you have to bring that. You have to bring that
mm,
tool set with you. So yeah, I think that's something people still wrestle with, but it's
yeah,
really about hanging on to that and trusting in it because that's what makes you a better animator, not your
yeah.
use of mine.
No, no, no. I love that. There's no no curve for funny.
Yeah,
um,
if there was, you want to come here,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
tweak the handles on that
yeah.
thing.
That'd be great. Um, I, and speaking about it being open and embracing change, you had your co-director debut on the last project, right?
Yes, I co-directed Riverdance, the
Yeah.
animated adventure with Dave Rosenbaum, and we did that in Montreal. I finished that last year. An amazing experience, my first feature animation directing experience. That was a project I'd lived with for 5 years. Took
Wow.
that first meeting, yeah, a long time ago. And it was great fun. Learned a huge amount,
Mm,
not just from Dave, but from all of the artists that were on the show, the people that we rubbed shoulders with. Yeah, it was our first IP project. We'd already made animated films in Montreal, but this is the first one that we owned a part of.
mm,
So it was quite important. And yeah, it was great fun. Great fun
yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Did you? I hope you got a chance to bring in all the Del Toro and what's his name? I'm blanking now. But
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah, yes. Then I hope you've got a chance to bring in all those lessons into this
Yeah,
project as well.
always,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I stood on the shoulders of giants for that one. Um, yeah, it's hard, yeah, it's really about remembering what works and remembering what doesn't work. You know,
Yeah.
that's just as important when you work on shows and go, well, I wouldn't do it like that again. That could be just as helpful as going, well, I'm definitely going to steal that idea and I'll move that forward. But, you know, we finished that movie in lockdown as well, which was a real challenge.
Oh, of
The
course.
last, the last 6 months or so, that was done remotely. And then that was a huge learning curve as well. Like, who'd have thought a year ago
Yeah.
anyone could work from home? You know, we've always grown up thinking you can't do it. And guess what? When needs must, the devil drives, and we've all done it, right? We've all ended up working from home and being successful at it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's always ways to do things and get things done.
Mm.
But yeah, Riverdance was fun to work on. I got to work with Pierce Brosnan, Brendan Gleeson. Um,
Were you actually directing them?
but
I guess you were, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great fun. Yeah, yeah. They're amazingly talented people, and
Oh, I bet.
um, yeah, it was really good. The voice stuff, and the only thing I didn't get to do, and I'm kicking myself because it was in lockdown. We did our sound mix at the ranch, you know,
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah.
in San Francisco,
Yeah.
uh, and I couldn't go, and
Oh,
that's where Star Wars was done. That's where
yeah,
all
yeah,
these,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I was like, oh, when am I ever going to get a chance to do that again? Probably not, but there you go.
Wow. We'll
But a
see.
great team, an amazing team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Directing is fun. It's a whole different set of problems.
Oh, I bet.
Um, you just have to make a lot more decisions all the time and keep things moving forward. And again, you trust your production and your
Mm.
producer and your managers to keep you on the straight and narrow. Excuse me.
Mm.
But it was great. And working with Dave Rosenbaum, I learned a huge amount from Dave.
Mm.
He's extremely talented. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough developing an idea and then into a script and then into an animatic and then onto the screen. There's lots
Yeah.
and lots of things. And then going to screenings and getting feedback and getting like a telephone directory of feedback
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Did you,
is challenging.
yeah, I bet. Did you feel like those, because this is like a whole new way of being involved, like you're not only animating, you're also heavily involved in the development and in the story and the writing and every aspect of it. Did you feel like you were back in the junior position where feedback almost hurts when
Oh
you
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, what you only know what you know, and when
yeah.
it's your first time, you don't know anything. So, but you know, I've worked with amazing directors
Mm.
and I've worked with amazing producers, and we had, you know, our team of supervisors and leads were all extremely experienced. So I knew everyone had it covered. We had a great writer, a great creative team to get run a great story team, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like I use this analogy all the time. It's the Magnificent Seven, you know that movie,
Mm.
uh, the original one with Yul Brynner and all these guys. And it's when you form a circle with people who've got your back, and everyone's pointing out, you know, killing all
Mm.
the
Oh, right.
bad guys.
Yeah,
Right? The person behind me's got me covered. That's the knife guy, that's the dynamite guy, the rifle guy, the sharpshooter, the card player, the whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And they're all brilliant at what they do. They're the best at what they do. And when they're facing out, that's what gets you through it. And everyone's got each other's backs. And
Mm.
when a show goes right and goes well, that's how it feels.
Mm.
It feels like everyone's got you covered,
Yeah.
and you can lean on them. And yeah, so I had the luxury of having a really great team on Riverdance
Mm.
that could support me and my lack of experience and the new stuff for me. But yeah, it was great, really good.
That's awesome. Well, we're coming up to an hour, so I'll I'll let you go. But I think this was a great note to end on, and thank you so much for doing this, Eamon. It was great.
You're very welcome, Ben. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long time. We need to
Yeah,
catch up
yeah,
over frosting.
yeah, definitely. Next time I'm in London, or if you come to Vancouver, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll probably be out there in the New Year. As I
Oh
said, we
yeah,
have a studio there, so we'll be visiting.
yeah,
But I'll look you up and I'll drop you a line. Let's get together.
that'd be amazing. Okay, well, have a good evening over there. I'll get back to work here. So,
Thanks very much, man. Have a great
yeah,
day.
you
It
too.
was fun.
Yeah,
Take
bye.
care.